Alright, I just wanted to make a simple video today. It's not the right day to, go over a more complex, uh, system or a time map. I just kind of wanted to make a simple video going over a few other maps that I haven't touched on yet. My neighbors are blowing up fireworks at the moment, so I have the windows closed. So to suppress the sound a little bit, but you may hear those, so just know that that's what's going on. Um, so I really wish I could open the windows though, because I just generally like having the windows open. Um, so I wanted to talk about a few simple things just to um, get these out there so that anybody who's um, whenever I get more viewers and stuff like that, they can kind of explore this stuff as well. What I'm going to be going over is I'm going to be going over a few Tzolkin maps. So again, how I've mentioned that when it comes to time maps, there are essentially, as far as I'm aware, an infinite amount of different temporal maps that you can use to kind of gauge the quality of or the archetypal nature of time and how it progresses. Um, it just all depends upon your own particular energy, or your kinergy, if you will, to choose which maps that you want to focus on and follow. So the first map that I'm going to be going over is the Fibonacci kin. So if you were to, one second. If you're unaware of what Fibonacci is, essentially Fibonacci is the mathematical numbering system that's connected to phi, which is a ratio that is what is known as the golden mean. It's essentially what programs the geometric designs of life forms, if you will. So you can, I don't want to, I'm not really so much of an expert on phi, but it's essentially 1.618, and it's what designs the spiraling of seashells, the shapes of pine cones, the shapes of all flowers and trees, the human body, etc., etc. It is a divine proportion. But of the numbering system, if you were to find phi within the numbering system, it begins with 0 as, uh, naturally, you would begin with 0. And for the Tzolkin, if you ever want to discover what number corresponds to 0, you essentially figure out whichever system that you're working with, the contained system, and whatever the highest number is, that would act as the 0. So if you were dealing with just the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, well then 4 would act as the 0, because once you get to the end of that sequence, it begins again with 1 after that. So the last number of any system simultaneously mirrors as the 0, or the completion, which is everything, and yet it is nothing. So 0 has a very unique quality to it that is different from pretty much every other number, or all numbers. So when we begin with the Fibonacci kin, the number 0, that would be kin 260. So that is the very last kin, that is yellow cosmic sun. And then you would in the Fibonacci sequence, you would naturally just go to the next number, because the rule of Fibonacci is that you add the current number with the previous number, right? So since you can't add 0 to 0 and get anything else, you would just go to the next number, and that next number is 1. So then the second, by the way, there are 13 of these kin that correspond to these Fibonacci numbers along the sequence. So the second would be kin 1, or the number 1. And then since you can't add 0 to 1 and get anything other than 1, then you would just add 1. And that would give you kin 2. Then you add 1 to 2, giving you 3. And then you add 2 to 3, which gives you 5. And then you add 3 to 5, which gives you 8. And then you add 5 to 8, which gives you 13. And then you add 8 to 13, which gives you 21. Add 13 to 21, you get 34. Add 21 to 34, you get 55. Add 34 to 55, you get 89. And add 55 to 89, you get 144. And then if you add 89 to 144, you get the last one, which is 233. So if you were to find all of the kin that correspond with those digits of Fibonacci, sorry, then you would get 13 special kin, which are kins 260, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, and 233 as the 13th. So, which it's interesting because that makes number 13 the 7th digit of the Fibonacci sequence. Again, going back to the connection between 7 and 13. As well as 5 being the 5th Fibonacci number. And 55 being the 10th. As well as 144 being the 12th, which is 12 times 12, or 12 squared. So, so if you were to lay out these 13 kin, right, from, starting with the, 260 or 0 as the first of the sequence, and then you go all the way up to 233, then you would have a system of 13. And as we know of the law of time, all the various different systems of a particular number all synchronize and line up. So you can think of it like this. The 0, or yellow cosmic sun, would act as the magnetic, because we have 13 lunar tones and 13 Fibonacci kin. Therefore, each of the lunar tones lines up with the 13 Fibonacci kin. Yellow cosmic sun would be the magnetic. Red magnetic dragon would be the lunar. White lunar wind would be the electric. Blue electric night would be the self-existing. Overtone serpent would be the overtone. Galactic star would be the rhythmic. Cosmic skywalker is the resonant. Galactic dragon is the galactic. Galactic wizard is the solar. Electric eagle is the planetary. Spectral moon is the spectral. The magnetic seed is the crystal. And the crystal skywalker is the cosmic. So, basically, every time that these kin roll around on the Tzolkin, they synchronize with a Fibonacci digit. Therefore, as we progress, and every time we reach another one of these kin, we're sort of seeing, or we're synchronizing with a significant point along the Fibonacci spiral. So, from my perspective, every time one of these kins roll around, it's sort of synchronizing the progression of the structure of time, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and open these windows because always have a hard time thinking when I don't have fresh wind. Just to let you know, if they pop off fireworks, I'm just going to let it be. I've already, went too long with not having the windows open. So, so basically, yeah, the events that happen in our life have a structure to them. And time is just another one of those means as to to structure things. And since all forms and all structures, or not all structures, but all natural structures and all natural form is directed by the Fibonacci sequence and the phi ratio, we can conclude that those digits are synchronized and sacred to this this particular ratio and numbering sequence. So one thing to observe is every single time these can come around, to become aware of the structure that is our life, as well as the structure that is the collective, and to just meditate on it. The Fibonacci kin map is something that, because I'm not an expert when it comes to the phi ratio and the Fibonacci sequence, it's just something that it's something that I'm more of a beginner with. So I put this out there to the world to find hopefully somebody who is either one of these kin or somebody who's more well versed with this particular system of math to provide more test results and maybe a better synchronization. As far as I'm aware, this is essentially the one thing that really governs how things are structured over time, and when it comes to physical form or natural form. Another map that I would like to go over are, of the 1 to 260 different kin, there are 22 triangular numbers that fit within one cycle of Tzolkin. So basically what a triangular number is, or triangulating numbers is whenever you are just adding the subsequent numbers within a number line. So if you were to say, what is the first triangular number? Well, since we're only dealing with the number 1 by itself, then it would be 1. But what's the second triangular number? Well, it's a simple process. You just add 2 to the previous total. So since 1 was the previous total, all you do is add 2, and then you get 3. So 3 is the second triangular number. Then you add 3, which gives you 6. 6 is the third triangular number. And then you add 4, which gives you 10, which is the fourth triangular number. And then you add 5, which is 15. Add 6, you get 21. And add 7, you get 28. I've mentioned this in a previous video of how if you lay out the numbers 1 to 7 on a number line, if you look at each of the digits, 4 sits right in the center of 7. And this is another interesting key when it comes to mathematics. When dealing with odd numbers, you can easily figure out its triangulation by multiplying its center digit, right? So let's say that we're dealing with the number 3, right? What's the third triangular number? Well, it's simple. Since you have 1, 2, and 3, you add the middle digit to itself. So 2 times 3, you get 6. That gives you the third triangular number. Now let's move on to the next odd number, 5. What is the fifth triangular number? Well, since 1, 2, 3 is in the center, you add 3 to number 5, and you get 15, and that's the fifth triangular number. And for 7, 4 is in the center. 4 times 7 is 28, which is the seventh triangular number. And 7, 4, and 28 are a powerful system of mathematics that contains innumerable knowledge. Hence, the structure of a lunation cycle, of the 13 28-day moons, etc., going back to each of the 7 days of a heptad or septad, a week. Those correspond to the 6 chakras plus the 7th, which is the fusion of all of them. etc. And if you look at the number 13, for instance, the 13th triangular number is 91, and 7 is in the center of 13, and 13 times 7 is 91. So going back to the triangular numbers, from 1 to 260, there are 22 of them, okay? So these 22 triangular numbers are 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, 36, 45, 55, 66, 78, 91, 105, 120, 136, 153, 171, 190, 210, 231, and 253. Those are the first 22 triangular numbers. So each of these 22 kin all belong to one specific sequence, and that is the triangulation sequence. It is a triangulating cycle. And if there's anything to simplify, in sacred geometry, in Freemasonry, as well as just sacred math in general, the triangle or the circle has always represented heaven. It is the internal realm, if you will. It is the non-corporeal, the metaphysical. It is the close your eyes and go within. That is what the circle and the triangle connect back to. It is the inner realm of thoughts and emotions. Whereas the square, sorry, I know that's a poor square, but a square represents the external. It represents the earth. It's represented by the number 4, whereas the circle and the triangle are represented by the number 3. And both of them together, 3 and 4, give you 7. So when we're dealing with triangulation, we're dealing with the internal. We're dealing with thoughts and emotions. So since we're dealing with the triangular nature of time, or starting with 1 and then adding 2 and then adding 3, adding 4, adding 5, adding 6, adding 7, since we're dealing with the triangulation of numbers, we're dealing with an internal aspect. We're dealing with things that have to do with thoughts and emotion, which ultimately boils down to information. So this sequence, and understanding when these particular kin roll around, they are connecting back to this particular sequence. And by understanding their position on the list, right? So for instance, knowing that kin 1 is the first triangular number, sorry, I skipped ahead. These 22 triangulating kin connect back to the major arcana of the tarot, which the tarot, both the minor arcana and the major arcana, are mathematical structures. And mathematical structures are all connected, and that goes back to the mathematical structures that design all of space and all the physical matter that we see. It creates all the mathematical systems of consciousness. It creates intelligence in general. So when we look at these ancient systems, these numbering systems, such as divination systems, the reason why the ancients were so fixated on them and why they were so prominent is because underneath their surface appearance, such as a deck of cards, a pair of dice, a bag of runes, or I Ching hexagrams, or whatever, all of these divination systems are numbering systems. They go back to, and such as the tarot, and the I Ching, for instance, divination in and of itself is all about revealing information, right? Which is ultimately going to change us, right? Awareness changes us. It's predicting the future. This goes back to time, right? The I Ching is ultimately the way of changes. It is the book of changes. So this All these divination systems go back to one of the primary things they connect back to are timing sequences, as well as systems of archetype for us to understand consciousness, right? And those archetypes manifest themselves through us and how we move through time. So the 22 of the major, the 78 cards of the tarot, both the 56 of the minor and the 22 of the major, they're both just different forms of timing sequences. In part, there are various other things as well, but the tarot manifests itself in true timing sequences when you start to have a better understanding of what they are and how they synchronize. So the fact that within the Tzolkin, the harmonic count, there are 22 triangulated numbers, we can test out whether or not the 22 of the major arcana connect back to these 22 triangulating numbers. So again, this is another one of those maps that I'm not that familiar with, but the number 22 is really important for me. The number 22, what's interesting is that and this is just a quick thing before I get back into it, the man who I learned this from, the main, person, aside from the fact that he got himself involved in a lot of other complex things that I don't necessarily involve myself with, is Jose Arguelles. And Jose Arguelles explored these laws of time ever since he was 14, whenever he visited the ancient pyramids. And he did a lot of research on these things and helped to put together these mathematical matrices, which were essentially just covered up at this point. And without his research and dissecting, we wouldn't have as clear of an understanding of the laws of time. So he was born on Kin 11. So he is what is known as blue spectral monkey. Kin 11 is tone 11, seal 11. So he's 1111. And his wife, Loidine Arguelles, she was also known as Bolon Ik because she's Kin 22, white solar wind. And in the Yucatec languages, there are many different languages, when we go back to the Native Americans, they had various different languages. But one of the most prominent to describe these things, there were various different words that they used for the 13 lunar tones and the 20 solar seals. Bolon means solar. It means the 9th tone, Bolon. And Ik was the white wind. So that's why she went by the nickname Bolonik, because it meant 9 wind, which is interesting because the wind is the 2nd solar seal and the solar is the 9th lunar tone. So her kin code was 9.2 or 2.9, depending on how you look at it. But either way, if you were to add 9 and 2, you get 11, which was her husband. And Jose Arguelles had tone 11, seal 11, and if you add 11 and 11, you get 22. So within his galactic signature encoded her, and within hers encoded him. So I just thought that was pretty fascinating when I realized it. But the number 22, we can learn a lot about because Jose explored a lot of these things, right? So there's information out there that you can find about the number 22. This is one of the main points I want to drive home. When it comes to these mathematical matrices, right, and this system of knowledge, of information regarding the qualities of numbers, as well as the qualities of numbering systems, ratios, just math matrices in general. When it comes to the knowledge that is available out there, most of it is shrouded in mystery, right? We weren't fortunate enough to be handed this information to us when we were children. So, as well as the fact that most of it has been coveted, a lot of it's been, once they got access, once these people in the world coveted this stuff, a lot of it on the outside was destroyed. So for us, in order to figure it out, we have to experiment and explore and research these things as much as possible. Become aware through the breath, which the number 22 is very important when it comes to the breath, and try to understand these things, right? You can explore the external world and find books and information outside of yourself, but you can also go within and attune yourself through the resonance of the breath, right? So, as far as my knowledge of the number 22 is concerned, 22 is important to me because I am a yellow warrior. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, every 28-day moon from the 7th day of the moon to the 22nd day of the moon is what is known as the cube journey. So every time you see the numbers pop up of 16 or 22 or 7 and 16 or 7 and 22, when you see these numbers pop up, you know that it's going back to the process of the human, right, within the matrix and the connection between the two, right? And that goes back to telepathy, as I've mentioned before. There is an externalized divinity, and that is the cosmos itself. That is the circumference. That is the field in which the diameter sits. And the diameter is the conscious being. And the conscious being is us. You see the way we're shaped? We're shaped up and down like a line, right? And whenever we go out into the world, that's the circumference. So we are the diameter and the circumference. That goes back to the monad. The monad is always been depicted as a circle with a dot in the center. And that depicted the sun. And the sun has always been associated with active, conscious energy, right? Because all of the hero archetypes of our mythologies and our religions have always been associated with the sun, because the sun is an active thing. It's constantly outpouring heat and light, and it grows things and it energizes things, right? So it is an active energy. So that's why the sun is always, the monad is always depicted the sun. And you can solar gaze too. Go and solar gaze and you'll see what I'm talking about. Watch the sunset and the sunrise. Eventually, if you keep practicing it enough, you can look at the sun at any time of the day and it doesn't bother you. In fact, once you can do that, then it feels really good, because you're absorbing energy from it. Solar energy has the power to grow basically everything on this planet. It gives life to it. It is, a necessary ingredient of life. Just don't let it overbalance things, because then the heat and the light can destroy things. Just as a quick thing, I just, just like as a personal thing, there was a YouTuber, Q-Pins, that I just was recently watching, and on his Instagram, he posted a little quick short of him lighting a bowl in his bong with a magnifying glass and using the sunlight. It was so dope. And what was funny was when he mentioned it in his YouTube video to go on Instagram and watch it, and I was curious. I wanted to see him light a bowl with a magnifying glass in the sunlight. And I hadn't added him on Instagram, but when I went to go look him up, I noticed that the little button to search people on Instagram was a little magnifying glass. Anyways, going back to what I was saying. So, when you understand that 22 is a reference to the circumference, and 7 represents the diameter, right? The spine has always been represented by the number 7. If you look at the number 7, the way it's shaped, what is that? Well, that down is the spine. And that horizontal is air going in, right? Air going in and out. That's the number 7, right? So when you divide 22 by 7, you get pi, 3.14, etc., etc. So one of the ways to divide whole numbers to get the pi ratio is 22 divided by 7. There's many, many, many different ways that this is encoded all over our planet, both inside and out. In the septonary gematria cipher, as I've mentioned before, if you haven't checked out Marty Leeds yet, go find him on YouTube as a start. When you use the septonary cipher on the word 7, it's the S is 6, E and V are 5, so 555, and N is 1. 6, 5, 5, 5, 1. That sums to 22. Divide 22 by 7, you get pi. And if you look at the how I've mentioned with the resonant field of 13, lay out the numbers from 1 to 13. 1 and 13 are connected, 2 and 12, 3 and 11, 4 and 10, 5 and 9, 6 and 8, and 7 is making that diameter within the resonant field of 13. Or sorry, the vibrational field of 13 with its resonant point. To synchronize up with that, right? That is where the resonance is occurring in the center. So when we look at the triangulated kin, we are referring back to that energy that's going in and out, right? And that goes back to kin 22, which is white solar wind. So every time that these 22 kin roll around on the Tzolkin, they are in the triangulation sequence. One kin can be a part of multiple different maps. It all depends on where you direct your consciousness. And since the triangulation has to do with intelligence, which we receive by resonating with our matrix, right? Through the numbers 7 and 22, right? 2 and 2 make 4, that's the field, right? Each one of these kin resonate with the 22 of the major arcana. Now, I'm not going to take the time to go into that because I talked about all this other stuff, but essentially, you know, the first triangulated number is 1, that's red magnetic dragon. That goes back to the Fool. The third is, and by the way, I do all of my systems for the tarot at least, with the Fool being number 1, by the way. So I'm sure that you could make the Fool number 22 if you want, if that's how you want to see it. But for me, we all start as the Fool. The Fool is the start, right? The Magician, it doesn't really seem like it's, you know what I mean? To me, the Magician makes more sense as number 2. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. The World, for me, it makes sense that the World is the last and the Fool is number 1, right? Rather than the Fool being the last and the Magician being the first. Anyways, so according to my numbering system of the Fool being 1 and the World being 22, the second triangular number is 3. That's blue electric night. That corresponds to the Magician, because as we know from observing the number 3 and that being a part of the internal world, you know, close your eyes, it's all black, that's the night, that's the void. The shaman goes within themselves, they go into the void and the darkness. That is the blue night. They are the dreamer, the intuition, etc. That is the shaman. The Magician. And then you have kin 6, which is the third triangular number. That's white rhythmic world bridger, or as the way I call it, it's just the white rhythmic bridge. Every time the world bridger comes up, as important as that is, going back to the WB and all that, you know, the world bridger, I just call it the bridge for short, right? So, that resonates with the high priestess. I don't have time to get into it all right now, but the third triangular number corresponds to the high priestess. The fourth being kin 10, planetary wolf, that is the empress. 15, lunar eagle, that's the emperor. 15, there's a lot of things that go back with 15 and 35 and royalty and kings and stuff like that. I don't have time to get into that right now. But the 6th is 21, that's galactic dragon, that is the Hierophant. Essentially, you know, the hero, whatever. And then you get into 7, and that's, you know, the lunar star, that is the lovers. 36 is the 8th, that is the chariot, planetary warrior. 45 is rhythmic serpent, that is strength. 55 is electric eagle, that is the hermit. 66 is the magnetic bridge, that is the wheel of fortune. 78, the 12th is cosmic mirror, that is justice. 13 being 91, that is the cosmic mage, that is the hanged man. The 14th being 105, magnetic river or magnetic serpent, that being the death. 15 is 120, that is the electric sun, that is temperance. 16 is 136, that is the rhythmic warrior, the devil. The 17th is 153, planetary tower, that is the tower, or planetary skywalker as some call them. The 18th triangular number is 171, that is lunar mage, that is the star. The 19th is 190, that's the galactic wolf, that is the moon. The 20 is 210, that's the lunar wolf, and that is the sun. 21 is 231, that's the planetary mage, judgment. And the 22nd is 253, that's the rhythmic tower, which is the world. The world is a rhythmic nature of towers going up, towers going down, another tower coming up, towers going. It's like every time you get to an age where they build castles and stuff, eventually by the time the next age rolls around, they've already dismantled those castles and built other stuff with them. You know, that's the nature of the world. But anyways, I don't have time to get into all the different details of this, but just build these maps yourself. You know, I offer all of my information for free. Therefore, if you have the know-how and you understand what I'm saying, you can put all this stuff together and figure it out yourself for free. However, if you want me to go in and explain these things to you, build your number map for you, as well as do a meditation session with you, I will start charging, because that requires my time and my energy, and you know, I'm not going to exchange that for free. But I will give you all the tools that you need to figure it out for yourself. So that is the 22 triangulated kin map. It's a map that coordinates the cycles of information. Information, whether that's just data or whether that's what your emotions are telling you. Anything that's an internal thing, and that has to do with information, blueprints, knowledge, data. And I suppose the last one I will get into, and this is very interesting as well, because it's unlike the Fibonacci kin map or the triangulated kin map. This one is more intuitive. Like, somebody could figure this out just by observing the Tzolkin, as opposed to knowing about triangulating numbers or Fibonacci numbers, etc. This is something that you could pick up intuitively just by observing the Tzolkin by itself with no other external knowledge. Which, there's a great deal of them, so, you know, I want to show this to people so that they can just go in and observe the Tzolkin on their own and kind of figure out more stuff, because there's a lot that goes into it. Let me grab a book real quick. Grabbing a book with my Tzolkin graphic on it. So, you remember this in the previous videos, the Tzolkin? Okay, so, oh yeah, that's what this video is about. The Tzolkin goes in cycles like this, right? It goes down vertically from the top down. I mean, you could flip, you know, you can, it doesn't really matter. In fact, I think it's best to not limit yourself with, you know, like rules. You could probably make a reverse Tzolkin where it goes this way, or maybe they start down here and go up. It doesn't matter. But the way that this particular image works is that the first kin is up here, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 downwards. So this is the first 20, that's the second 20, third 20, and there's 13 of these rows, right? Because you have 260 kin, 20 in each row, therefore you have 13 rows. So, of the 13 columns, right? 13 columns of 20 kin each, right? So, since there are 13 columns, each one of those columns resonates with, again, the lunar tones. So, if you were to think of kins 1 to 20, the first column here, if you were to think of that as the magnetic column, or I call these the towers, or the vinyls, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter what you call it, as long as you know, try to find the most informative word with the least amount of space, right? You don't want these super duper duper long words, right? You want to have a short word that delivers as much information and potency behind it as you can. That's one important thing about sacred math. Terminology. Anyways, or just language in general. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why, like, you know, I use big words from time to time, but it's like it's unnecessary other than the fact that they sound beautiful. Some words just, you know, especially big words, they sound beautiful, but it's just like it's unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like, as long as, like, the whole point of language is to get your meaning across to another person. And if you can do that with the least amount of energy, but yet with the most amount of potency, and different cultures did it differently. But I'm getting sidetracked here. So, that's just one thing I've been thinking about. But I got distracted. Essentially, because they are columns, right? Vertical lines. You can call them the 13 Tzolkin columns. You can think of them as towers, right? Because they're like towers, you know? You can call them lines. It doesn't really matter. It's just as long as you convey the meaning that you're trying to get across. So column, let's just call them columns for now, just because it's simple, it's to the point, it describes what it is. So of the 13 columns, you'll notice that they are 13 in number, therefore each one of the columns, or the vinyls, the sets of 20, corresponds to a different lunar tone of the 13, right? So the first column, kins 1 to 20, all resonate within the magnetic energy, right? Kins 1 to 20 are very magnetic. That's a time of beginning again. That's a time of realizing your purpose. That's a time of attracting things. That is a time of unification, etc., etc. All the qualities of the magnetic tone, the magnetic energy, magnetic resonance, all those energies are strongest on the Tzolkin, or, you know, they're very strong within kins 1 to 20, whereas kins 21 to 40 all have to do with the lunar. Sorry, I don't know if I'm looking at the camera. I might be, it's kind of dark, but I might be looking above it, so I might look weird. But so kins 21 to 40 are in the second column. That has to do with the lunar, or the polar lunar tone number 2. Whereas kins 41 to 60 resonate with the third, which is the electric tone. Kins 61 to 80 is the self-existing, or what I call the hermetic. Then kins 81 to 100 have to do with the overtone, or it's still a work in progress, but the overtone. Then kins 101 to 120 have to do with the sixth tone, which is rhythmic. And then kins 121 to 140 are the very center, right? It's the very center. This is your spine. Again, going back to the the spine being the number 7. You know what I'm saying? It's the very center of 13. So, one interesting thing to note is that within the 260 Tzolkin matrix, there are 65 sets of 4. So this first one of red, white, blue, yellow, or it's green because it's a gap, but every set of red, white, blue, yellow, or 4 kin, that is a harmonic. There are 65 harmonics, the very center harmonic being harmonic 33 in the very center of the Tzolkin. That's what is known as the mystic void. It's the very center, or the zero, if you will, the very heart of the Tzolkin, the harmonic 33. And 33 going back to, again, the number of vertebrae in your spine, that going back to, you know, the middle of a book because it has a spine, that going back to Jesus Christ lived for 33 years, performed 33 miracles, died at the age of 33, etc. It has to do with the death and the rebirth of the sun. Many, many different mathematical truths can be gleaned from the Tzolkin, is my point. But anyways, so the one thing that I want to point out here is that, say that you're dealing with the first column, okay? That's what is known as the magnetic column, because it corresponds to the magnetic tone, 1 of 13, just like the first of the 13 columns. So, how many kin within that column are magnetic? So we're dealing with what is known as the magnetic column. So if there are any magnetic kin within that column, those are like extra magnetic. Those are like double magnetic because they are a magnetic kin within the magnetic column. And there are 2. And that is the first kin, red magnetic dragon, and the kin that begins the second wave spell, white magnetic wizard. So of all the different magnetic kin that there are, which there are 20 of them, the first 2 are the most magnetic, because magnetic begins at the beginning in this first column. Therefore, the 2 magnetic kin within that column are essentially double magnetic. So that's one thing to note as well. Now in the second column, which is the lunar column, kins 21 to 40, there's only 1 kin with the lunar tone, or, you know, the lunar tone, and that is yellow lunar star, kin 28. Within the third, kins 41 to 60, which is the third column that relates back to the third lunar tone, which is the electric tone, there are 2. White electric wind, kin 42, and blue electric eagle, kin 55. So then you'll notice that there's a pattern here. All the odd numbers, you know, the first column, the third, the fifth, the seventh, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th all have 2 kin that have this, you know, alignment of their tone matching the tone of the column that they belong to. But all the even numbers only have 1 that do that. So these special kin, and I'll go over them real quick, within the magnetic column, you have magnetic dragon and magnetic wizard. Within the lunar column, you have lunar star. Within the third, the electric column, you have electric wind and electric eagle. Within the self-existing or hermetic, the fourth column, you have red self-existing moon, kin 69. In the fifth, the overtone, you have blue overtone knight and yellow overtone warrior, kins 83 and 96, which I'm kin 96, and my analog is blue overtone knight. That's the interesting thing about blue knight and yellow warrior, but I'll get into that later on. Then in the sixth column, the rhythmic column, you have kin 110, rhythmic wolf. And then in the seventh column, the resonant column, you have resonant seed and resonant earth. That is very, very important. Because again, every time that you breathe, right, you are drawing in new seeds of information. The yellow seed goes back to the targeting, the cross, the number 4. It has to do with attention and focus. The story, Johnny Appleseed going around dropping seeds. Ideas are seeds, and they flower within our matrix. And just like how we are walking seeds in this collective matrix, every thought that we bring into ourselves, every cell that's a part of our body, are seeds that we are bringing in through what we are putting into ourselves, what we are planting. The food, the drink, the air, everything that you're putting into yourself is going in to the medium, which is your body, and it's growing. Your body is like an earth, and every idea, everything that you put into it is like a being, if you will, a seed. So that is why in the 7th column, the 2 kin that are the resonant kin are resonant seed and resonant earth. You see? Which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me double check something here real quick. Sorry, I don't mean to digress again. I know I do that a lot, but I want to double check something. Yep. So again, the 2 resonant kin that are in the resonant column are kins 124 for yellow resonant seed, and kin 137, red resonant earth. Now, remember me talking about how the 33rd harmonic is right smack dab in the middle of the 65, which is the very center of the Tzolkin itself? The changeover point from the active alpha to the passive omega. It is it's where the whole Tzolkin hinges in the internal. It hinges and shifts over. It's the swivel point. Well, 137 for resonant earth is the 33rd prime number. Moving on to the 8th column, the galactic column, again, it being an even number, there's only one, that's blue galactic monkey. The solar column, there are 2, red solar serpent and white solar mirror. Galactic monkey is 151, and then the 9th, the solar, is 165 for solar serpent or solar river, solar blood, etc., and 178, which is solar mirror. Of the planetary column, the 10th, there's only one, and that is yellow planetary human, kin 192. Shout out to my older sister Katie for being kin 192, which I'm kin 96, and 96 times 2 is 192. So my older sister is 2 of me. Think about that. Well, you don't know us, or you don't know her, so there's no point to. But anyways, of the 11th column, the spectral column, you have 2, which is spectral world bridger and spectral storm, kins 206 and 219. Of the crystal column, the 12th column, you have 1, which is kin 233, the crystal skywalker, who is also a Fibonacci kin. See, this is my point. Understanding all the different numbers and how they correspond to each other, when a kin rolls around and you understand that whatever particular kin it is, that it fits into this map, this map, this map, this map, you can kind of get an idea of like, okay, well, we're going to have to refine our information. There's going to be a major shift outside of ourselves in structure and beauty and art and growth because it's a Fibonacci or whatever. There's going to be primal energy because it's a prime number, etc. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm talking about? How these numbers do this? How they have personalities? How they have aspects to them? Archetypes? Well, the 13th column has 2, and that's blue cosmic hand, kin 247, and kin 260, yellow cosmic sun. So, and of this, since we have 2 for each of the odds, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 1 for the even numbers, so that's 15. I'm adding them all up together. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Since we have 20 kin here, right, that align with their tone and the column they belong to, these 20 can also synchronize with the 20 solar seals. So not only does it have the qualities that it already contains, but now they have a new synchronization that gives it even more archetype. So for instance, since the magnetic dragon is the first one of the 20 that are in this system, it also corresponds to the first of the solar seals, which is the red dragon. Magnetic wizard is the second. But of the 20 solar seals, white wind is the second. So this magnetic wizard not only is a double magnetic power, but it also has the power of the wind. So of the white wizard, who is the technician, it is the solvent, it is the solution maker, it is the problem solver. Since in the magnetic tone has to do with purpose, attraction, unification, etc., we are drawing to ourselves the problems that we have to solve, right? The problems that we have to fix, right? In the world, in the collective, you know, the earth wizards, you know. Not only does it have that double power of like bringing us our purpose of, oh, now I know what I need to fix in this world. Now I know my purpose, because magnetic wizard falls in the magnetic column and it's double the power. So I'm very aware of it. But also it corresponds to the wind. And so what is the best thing that we can do to become problem solvers? Breathe that wind. Sorry, I'm being stupid right now. And the third would be lunar star, right? And that corresponds to the blue night, because this is the third. And then the electric wind would fall into the seed. Electric eagles aligns with the serpent. Self-existing moon is the sixth. That aligns with the bridge, the world bridger. Overtone night aligns with the hand. Overtone warrior aligns with the star, etc., 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 etc. So there's many different ways that we can see this the relationships between one number and the next, just by uncovering the different relationships. And the Tzolkin is like a motherboard in a machine, and the machine that I'm referring to is time and the cosmos and the structure of the cosmos, and it's governed like how you have a dashboard in a vehicle and how that controls the vehicle and all the different things, you know, turn on the lights, turn on the radio, air conditioning, drive around, the gas pedal, the brake, etc. The Tzolkin is the dashboard or the motherboard of the universe, right? And by understanding the mathematics that are contained in that, I'm sorry for people who are out there, you know, following the zodiac, you know, and I don't mean to be pretentious or pompous or anything like that. It's just that the zodiac and the Gregorian calendar are the result of madmen out there in the world who coveted the true laws of time and twisted it, broke it up, corrupted it, and left us with a falsified version. That's all that it is. Just like how they give us the ball model of the earth, the zodiac and the Gregorian are the ball model of time. It's not real. It's an illusion. And as we know, in society, there is this falsified matrix. I'm going on a rant now, but there is this falsified matrix, right? It is a system that tries to govern the externalized world and people, right? It was a false reality overlaid the true reality, the true matrices of time. You know, it bothers me when people always say, like, escape the matrix. You know, you got to get out of the matrix, as if they only have one meaning for matrix, and that is the evil, corrupted, you know, society in which we live, you know, the social programming. Yeah, that is a matrix, but it is not the only matrix. A matrix is a system. It is like a software, right? It is a net, a containment that has various different numbering systems that coordinate information. So like a chip, you know, a computer chip or a motherboard, that is a matrix because it has various different energetic points that transfer information and energy. So yes, you have the social matrix that was put in place by, you know, bad people in this world and overlaid, almost as if they were trying to mask it and hopefully hope that it integrates itself and becomes the real matrix. But one thing that I've noticed is that this falsified matrix, you know, and all of its various different systems of knowledge, the ball shape of the earth, the Gregorian and the zodiac and all this, even though it has its own versions of these things. Jose Arguelles called it the technosphere, by the way. The artificial timing frequency, which is not really so much artificial as it is just, it just focuses on specific time maps and excludes all the others, or it tries to cover up the rest of them. This falsified matrix gets weaker and weaker every single day, whereas the real matrix, you know, nature, right, and all of its biological software, that keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. That's based upon divine law, right? The true matrix. Because it is essentially what keeps the whole construct going. It is the blueprint and the skeleton, or the structure, the intelligence underneath all of the actual phenomenal physical world itself, the actual cosmos. So there's no way that anybody's going to ever get rid of that without destroying the universe, which, you know, good luck, because it seems like it'd be an impossible task. If not, it is. But it's like, no matter how much you try to overlay it with an illusion, right? The illusion will always go away. That's just the way that numbers work, right? That's just the way that intelligence and consciousness works. But I've gone on a rant. I guess you can consider this a vlog. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over a few more maps. I didn't really have the drive to like focus on a more complex map. There are various different maps that align with the numbering system of me. You remember that video I made about the magic number 41? I talked about one of my Tao Te Ching maps, but there are various other Tao Te Ching maps that I've uncovered, as well as specific time maps that synchronize with the 26 letters of the English alphabet, and 26 is 1/10 fractal of 260. So as far as I'm aware, there are 7 different alphabetic maps according to different cycles of time. Therefore, and that's one thing that I want to really get into, is like, therefore every single day there are 7 specific letters that are activating with that particular moment in time. So by decoding what those 7 letters are, reveals a lot of information, because it is a lot of times it can clearly spell out certain words. Like, a lot of times it could be like all consonants and you're like, I wonder what that means. But other days it can be so down to the exact specific like synchronization. It's like it'll spell out a word that has it is like so specific to the exact situation that we're going through. Not only just one of us, all of us. Again, these are all working, these are all a work in progress, but my goal is to ultimately not try and tell people the way things are, but to show them that there are these awesome, very powerful mathematical matrices out there, and it just requires our attention. Everybody understand what a terma, or what terma is, and a terton, etc. But yeah, I'm just reaching out to try and offer my services, as well as to teach others to explore these things, because the information that's contained therein is super cool, beautiful, artistic, and divine, and just surprising. It's miraculous, really. But, I just don't want to go about this, I don't want to continue to see all of this beauty and all of this power and intelligence in the mind of God, and just be one of the only few people who sees it. You know what I mean? Like, I want other people to see this stuff. So anyways, I guess I'll end it here. I really don't have much else to say, but yeah, by the way, my YouTube channel is going to get better. By the way, it's right now we're still in the initial phases. A lot of the videos I've already made will be made better later on when I have better technology to make graphics and proper videos and everything like that. But this is just the beginning phase of this channel. I say give it another few years and it'll be like way better. So I just want to let everybody know that if you've actually stuck around this long. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you later.